this crop very early on had a tremendous amount of stress on it. Run through the jungle. This is always one good reason to scout your fields. Two, you don't ever know what you're gonna come from. I'll take a consistent farm anytime because you can figure your inputs and your expenses a whole lot better on a consistent farm. So today's video, I guess we'll just give y'all a little crop tour. One of the most important things you can do as a farmer, in my opinion, is put boots out in the field. Regularly scout your crop. And that's what we're doing today. Southern rust is in the area. There's been some confirmed in Soybean County, which is a county north of us. So we are out scouting the crop. We know all our late season corn, all the late May planted corn, will get a fungicide on it. Normally, if corn is planted in May, that means an automatic fungicide application for me. We are going down in the bottom. Boy, this corn is looking pretty. It come out of the ground growing and looks good. There's some good little bottom ground down here. It always really produces and shows out. It's creek bottom ground. This corn tasseling and pollinating, silking. But this corn will get a fungicide. Man, this corn looks good. Let's see about done pulling an ear and seeing what we got. Boy, look at this. Girl, hefty. Hefty. Alright, let's do a stand count. I normally take my foot and 1/1000th of an acre is 17 foot 4 inches on 30-inch rows. So I just take my feet and step off 17 feet, and that's normally a pretty daggum close. Let's see what we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks about like 14 by 38. I don't know why, but this year, typically our ears are more girthy and short, but for some reason, our ears have been, well, we've only pulled 2 ears so far this year, but they've been longer than normal. Normally, a typical ear for us is about 16 by 30, but everything we've been pulling has been about 14 by 38, 42. It's gonna be some tall corn. Remember what variety this is?
I think it's that 5678.
Cropland 5678. Alright, we're coming out of the bottom now. It's up on the hill. It's Cropland 4997. Right through here, some really thin dirt. There was a bunch of big oak trees there, and they took them down. And so that's some thin dirt, but that corn, it really looks good for to be on the thinnest dirt as it is. That's why them stalks are kind of spindly. But yeah, that's cropland $49.97. It's 108-day corn, and it's the shortest season corn that we grow. Really excited about this corn. It has looked really good all year long. Some of the prettier corn we've got. It's an old tough hill, but it has been a good farm for us over the years. It's been typically one you could pretty well count on. So we're gonna look and see if we think this corn's far enough along that we don't have to spray a fungicide, or we do. So we're gonna get out and evaluate that. We'll probably go in this side right here. This ground's really thin right through here. They redone this driveway and they stole a bunch of dirt off the side of the field to redo the driveway. Yeah, planted about the 15th, 16th of April. It don't look like it's got as real a showy year as what we've been looking at so far. Just picking an ear at random. I'm going to mark a random spot right here and do a stand count. Got pretty good moisture in the soil. You can tell right there, that's where we run the nitrogen applicator, the Coulter rig. And I'll tag all these videos and put cards in from where we done certain things on it, so y'all can go back and watch them videos if you ain't seen. 9, 10, 13, another darn 14. 14 by 30, but the population stand count was 31,000. Now, if a lot of your yield, I think a lot of your yield comes from this right here, is the kernel depth. You see how small that cob is? Which it ain't really got a deep kernel on it. But you know, the majority of the ear is actual kernel and not a lot of cob. I have seen ears be great big humongous ears and you break them open and they just all cob, but it's a small ear. But you gotta remember, this is just an old thin hill, had cattle running on it for years.
It's never a top yielder, but always a consistent yielder.
Like Robert said, it never makes the top yield, but it seems to always be consistent. I was hoping for a little more, but 5-year average on this farm about 155, and y'all saw how much stress it had on it early season. So you know, if it makes in that 150 range, we'll be satisfied. I live in the world of realistic yields. I don't know where some of these guys live, but anyways. On that side there was actually a lot of big trees in the pond, and they took those trees down and pushed the old pond in. So, you know, you're basically farming subsoil on that side, no topsoil. So now right there through ours where we should have pulled our ear from. But I'd rather go into the year expecting low and be surprised as to go in with high hopes and be disappointed. Look a lot better than last time I seen it. Around the 4th of July there, stuff kind of started making a turn for the better. We started getting some heat. Started getting plenty of moisture, so things are looking better, and we were happy about that, because this crop very early on had a tremendous amount of stress. Super wet and super cold. You know, we had to replant several acres of corn that did not come up. So to say that we were kind of relieved at how the crop looks right now would be an understatement, because at one time we did not know how the year was going to turn out. Alright, these are our early or not early April planted, but late April planted beans. You know, we went into the year really excited about planting some April beans. We had heard good things about it and was ready to try it out. The wet spring and these beans really struggled, but they're looking pretty good now. You know, we wanted to go back and try 30-inch row beans because our planter is wider than our drill. After this is probably my last year on 30s. On soybeans, we're gonna go back to the planting every acre with the drill. There's about 120 acres on this farm. We have about 120 acres of 30-inch row beans, about 280 acres of drilled beans. So, but let's take a look here. I was really expecting a whole lot more pods on them. Whole lot more blooms on them. Overall, so far, I'm just not real impressed with April planted beans. And I'll show you why up here in a minute. This is the farm that had all the deer damage on it. Let's go up here and we'll look at where we done to replant and see how many the deers ate. I want y'all to look at something. We're over here in some of the beans that the deer ate on, and we were super worried about them. But I want you to look at how many more pods and blooms they've got on them than the beans that didn't get ate on. That's crazy, ridiculous. That old hill over there looks better, way better than last time I saw it, guys. Let's go. It's a pretty good little hike over there, but let's go take a look at it. This is my all organic cover crop. Was lots of grass on it when we planted it. Seems to be shading the ground pretty well. Do a little pulling while we're here. Them sorry rascals, them sorry deer. Yeah, we need to train deer to eat pigweed instead of beans. All right, 30-inch row beans, drilled beans. Can you see the ground over here? Nope. And these beans here are way behind them over there, like 2 months behind, and they're catching up to them. Now they kind of, as far as being in the reproductive stages, they're behind. You know, they're just now starting to bloom. But if we can have some, now that we have a substantial stand, a good stand of beans, and if we keep getting the weather we've been having, we still have good yield potential over here. But you can see they're still working on them pretty heavy. Let's take a look at the Bob's beans. They coming along and look quite nice.
They're looking a lot better.
See here, we got, let's look down in here. Yeah, he got several pods. See on how these drilled beans, how many more pods and blooms they got on them than them 30s did. But see how much room there is between plants. You know, they got room to bush out and get some down, get some sunlight down in the down in there on them auxiliary buds. Robert finally got his mare's tail dead. He had a battle with mare's tail this year. Robert's wanting to show off how much his beans is branched. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, about 15 branches on one plant. You know, studies have shown that lower populations in soybeans aren't really a bad thing. I think they say you got to have 75,000 to reach your full yield potential. Some people ask why we drill our beans, and that's one of the reasons. We think the plants have more room, spaced out more, and are able to branch out and put on more beans and pods. Pioneer 48A60s. These beans are behind 5 years of continuous corn. So, I'm anxious to see what they do. We poured the fertilizer to them. Seem to be loaded up pretty good. Several blooms, starting to set some pods. But they still got a long way to go. We got a little volunteer corn out here. But other than that, looks pretty good. These are double crop soybeans. Deer. Imagine that. This has been the year of the deer. They're a little skippy on the end rows, but they'll come on, fill in, branch out. Got a pretty good stand here out in the middle of the field. These beans hadn't been sprayed yet. We'll spray them probably tomorrow. They're right before taking the straw, getting up over the straw. A drilled bean, especially on 7.5-inch spacings, they always look skippy, but once they come on and fill in, you can't tell any difference. Well, this is the next to last day we planted corn. I'm not going to stop and look at it because it's raining. But it looks very beautiful. Really pretty. I'm proud of this latter planted corn. On the late planted corn that y'all just saw, we are going to run Travapro because Travapro is a little better fungicide, I think. And that corn's got a long way to go. The earlier planted corn, we are going to run Quilt XL. Early planted corn don't have as quite a far to go until maturity, and we can save about $4 to $5 an acre running Quilt XL versus Travapro. So that's the reason we're doing that. If there wasn't southern rust in the area, I would not run any fungicide on that corn, on the early planted corn. But being that there is southern rust in the area and I think we've got pretty good yield potential, I do want to put something out, but I don't want to break the bank. We are going to be putting out 250 acres of fungicide this year. That's more than I have ever ran. I will say this, I have never regretted putting the fungicide out. When we get back to the shop, we'll go take a look at our very first planted field and pull the ear and see what it looks like and go from there. Tall corn here, I don't like the ear placement on it. It's up here high and tall. This corn had a tremendous amount of stress early. This corn here was yellow and stunted and did not look good at all. And I imagine it's going to show up in the ear size.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Stand count down through here come up with 33,000. This is normally typically our really good ground down through here, so You know, we set our target population on 32 to 33,000. But like I said, this corn went through lots of stress. I don't know. We went and looked at some other 49.97 and it didn't play. It didn't. There's a little bit. Me don't know. This is some replant corn on the same field and it looks much better. Well, this is the replant here on the same farm. Needless to say, it looks a lot better. Got a whole lot better kernel count. But it's still got a long ways to go. We got to unload our fungicide. We don't know what the corn crop's gonna do. We think we're gonna have a good corn crop. We think we're gonna have decent corn crops. But we don't think it's gonna be a band buster. Just too cold and too wet early on. Didn't get the ear size we needed. Every year we pull about 2 rows short of what they normally are. Now something happened on some of this corn, especially the replant. Something happened that it likes during when it was setting the length. Something wasn't right when it was setting the girth, but when it set the length, there was something that corn liked. Pretty optimistic about the replant corn. What do you think?
I think the later you're gonna go, the better it's gonna be.
I think that's true.
If you continue to get the rains.
Yeah, if we continue to get rain. I think we can expect average yields on early corn and later planted corn. If we continue to get rain, will be above average yields. Soybeans is still a toss-up. They got a long ways to go. So that's a look at some crops in the West Tennessee area. I was getting a little down on my corn, but I stopped there on just a random field on the side of the road, walked in there, you know, about 16 rows and pulled the ear, and it wasn't any better than ours. So that does make me feel better than I ain't the Lone Ranger on that. But I think we'll see average yields, but I ain't expecting nothing band busting this year.